And we have to stop this. We have to say no. We have to stand up and raise a voice. We can't any longer be silent about this.
I'm not quite sure how to respond to the question, but I think it was in the late 50s that Eisenhower first warned us about the industrial military complex. And these bastards have got 2 decades in front of us. And they are so powerful now, they control the media, they control the oil, they control God knows what. And the only positive note I think of is the fact that whilst we still have access to the internet, at grassroots, we can share our ideas with other people, despite those bastards. And that's what we got to do.
Thanks very much. David, I agree, and I think media is the key. That's why we're doing this tonight. That's why we're putting this online. That's why we're videoing it. I mean, some people get a bit alarmed when we video stuff, and they're sort of worried, why are you, filming us? Well, this is the way we communicate, and if we don't do it, then we're only going to be just very limited in who we reach. So we would love to get some questions and discussion from anyone in the audience now. But please come up to the front, and we've got a microphone up here. So we're going to... John's going to field.
Okay, who wants to ask a question? Yes, sir.
I saw an earlier video talking about the Pentagon, and there was no ground ploughed up in front of the grass. And having been a pilot myself, in such a big plane, he's got to clear the obstacles, which he did. So he's got to come in like he's coming into an airport. And then by the time he rounds out, the nose comes up high, and it doesn't seem to me enough distance for to bring the nose down after he's checked the descent. And then also, I mentioned in this video, there was a publication in a university magazine that they'd ploughed up the grass, and that was not to be seen in the video. And it wasn't till tonight, seeing the tip trucks tipping all the stuff in front, I never knew about that. So definitely a cover-up. And where did they get the material? The trucks must have been waiting there with the material ready to spread.
Thanks. I think I'll take that one. I'm sort of the only one that's sort of got the aeronautical background. In my opinion, we don't know what happened, and I think we'll leave it at that. Speculation about people planting evidence is used. People, like Gillian mentioned a YouTube video that she heard something in. To me, this is not evidence, okay? And I know Frank and myself and some other people have got a very tight view on what we should be talking about and what we should be doing as activists, and speculating in public forums is not particularly good. Anyway, so next question, just a quick question, no time for statements.
Well, first of all, quick question. Why doesn't Cuba close Guantanamo Bay? Why was Saddam Hussein hung instead of George Bush? And thirdly, it was an F-16 or an F-18 that flew towards and launched a missile into the Pentagon. The Americans knew it was coming. They made it happen, the Twin Towers. And why wasn't Bush and them been brought to justice and hung like Saddam Hussein or the rest of them are?
Okay, like I said, no statements, please. We'll just have questions. And remember the people that in the panel that are expert. David Leaf is an architect, Doctor of Architecture. Gillian Norman's a filmmaker and a reporter, an investigative journalist. James ONeill's a barrister, so he understands the law. And Frank Legge is a Doctor of Chemistry and a member of the Scholars for Truth group.
Very quick. Someone mentioned the internet. Do you think it's a good idea for all of us to contact everyone on our email list and pass along some of these websites and get the dialogue going that way? Is that a good way to spread the news?
Yes.
Of course, and that's what we're doing. In particular, you can pick a card up here today and send me an email. There's a couple of email lists running around now that are spreading this information. We have about 300 people in Australia that are receiving a regular newsletter, and they're passing it on to their groups as well. So there's quite a formidable force building, but the email list is a very, very important one for one major reason. If they get control of the internet, which they're trialling technology now to actually control the line feeds on the optical cables, if they take that down, the email list will still work. Okay, so we have to generate these email lists. It's a very, very important point.
Can I just ask?
Next question.
Can I just ask, John? Is there anyone in the audience? Just if you could just hold for 1 second. I just want to know if there's anyone in the audience who's actually on the fence, who wants to actually, because we're really keen to hear from people who actually haven't been convinced. So. I just, before we run out of time, I want to give anyone who would like to discuss, I guess, a point of view which conflicts with the basic thesis to basically have an opportunity.
Well, the previous gentleman actually asked 3 questions that weren't answered. Why don't the Cubans close Guantanamo Bay? They cannot for 2 reasons. One is that the territory that Guantanamo Bay occupies was ceded in perpetuity to the United States after the United States invaded in 1898 in the Spanish-American War that year. And secondly, they don't have the firepower to throw them out, which is perhaps the more relevant one. The second question, why was Saddam Hussein hung and not George Bush? I would put a big question mark over whether Saddam Hussein was in fact hung. His wife said, having visited the man in prison, that is not my husband. That was the man they hung. George Bush, well, he's still possible. I forget the third question.
Yeah, you did get those questions in there.
I've got 2 questions, really. Does anyone know how much the Howard government or the opposition and our intelligence services knew at the time or before the attacks? Thanks. Well, I'll get the answer from you later. And the second one is that if the media is complicit in this cover-up, are they chargeable under our own terrorist laws or any other laws for that matter?
We know that the intelligence agencies of other countries were informed. Andres von Bülow, the former State Secretary of Defense in Germany, has made that very clear. General Ivashov in Russia, they knew in Russia, and he says that other intelligence agencies knew as well. France certainly knew. France had been watching bin Laden for a long time. He was getting dialysis treatment in a US military hospital, and the French Secret Service was reporting on that. It's very unlikely, I would say, that the Australian intelligence agencies did not know that this was going to happen in advance. And as far as the responsibility of the media are clearly controlled for the purpose of this psychological operation. And I believe that they are criminally culpable, as John Howard is criminally culpable for dereliction of duty and not listening to the warnings that were abundantly clear in the intelligence services, and making this known in the first place and refusing to collaborate in the second place, and in not taking this country into a criminal illegal wars in the third place. And these need to be issues that are brought up and made public. We need to rattle the cage of the media until they do.
Question from
John Howard knew enough to be there on the day.